Next up in our Math for Gaming series is modeling equations. So whenever you're doing like coding and you're trying to like simulate certain things. So for example, say I'm making a Spider-Man code and I'm just going to draw some buildings really quick. So say I'm making this Spider-Man code and I want to swing from building to building. So I want to go here and then swing here and then swing here. But the thing is, swing mechanics. How do you create a swing mechanic or grapple or a grapple type thing? So how do we do this? We model it after physics equations. So we model it. So the way that we can do this is we can model it after our spring equations. So the way we want things to look natural and have realistic physics is we model it after real physics equations. So for example, we're talking about the Spider-Man potential mod. We want to use a spring equation. So how do we even begin to use this? We have to understand the spring equation. So what the spring equation is F equals negative k, which is a spring constant, times x. So what this means is the amount of force. And this is our spring constant. So what a spring constant is it just tells you about like the material of the spring, like how springy it is. And this is times and then x. X is our amount that we're kind of extending or going down. So the way that the spring works, let me just rewrite this really quick. So we have F equals negative k times x. So we have our spring here. So, and then we have our weight. So basically, this is our x, the amount the spring has extended down, right? So basically what we would want to model that after is our distance. So our distance that our player is swinging. So if we're swinging here, that means our distance is long. And we do that using our triangle equations, thinking back. So we find our distance using these triangle equations, and then we plug it into this. But then how do we determine our spring constant? So we just pull up a chart for our spring constant. It's truly just a chart to figure out what material we think would be best or how much force we want applied. I mean, if we really want like a maximum force to be applied, we can go ahead and just set the force equal to something such as like let's say 20, and then we can end up with the equation k equals force over our distance. So this would just end up being 20. So we have a set force each time if we wanted to do it that way. But we can just choose a spring constant that's modeled after an actual material using like a chart, and then that'll just be that. So basically, when you're coding, you want to make sure you're well educated on like these different types of equations. I mean, you can also use something like a pendulum to model like swinging, because pendulums, as you know, they go here, and then they slowly get slower each time. So something that would be a pendulum equation. So this would model like a pendulum if you wanted to do something like that. But a pendulum would be a little bit more complicated because you have a lot more angles involved. And then you also do have some derivatives, which are a little bit more complicated for people who haven't taken like a calculus class quite yet. So basically, you want to be able to take realistic physics equations and kind of fit them into whatever game development you want to do. just so it makes it more realistic and a lot easier to calculate.